Hi everyone, my name is PK, and in this video, I have here the lovely Shelley with me, who's a property manager on the north side of Adelaide. She's got her background behind her, which kind of gives away the suburb to a large extent, but that's okay. What I have Shelley here, who has very kindly made time in this video for, is to really deep dive on how people who are watching Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, how you can invest interstate and actually manage your properties remotely. I know so many of you have this kind of mental setback or mindset that, I've just bought a three, four, $500,000 property. I don't want to do that interstate. What if the tenants trash the place? What if, I can't get rent? What if it needs maintenance? I can't just drive down, look at it, touch it, feel it. I can't physically inspect it. How am I going to do all that, right? And I can't afford properties in Sydney and Melbourne. So with Shelley's permission, I'm just going to be asking her a few questions to really give you guys really good insight on how to manage properties interstate, whether it's Adelaide or anywhere else, like a true expert property investor. So if that's something that you're wanting to do, if you're looking to invest interstate, then stick around till the end, because I'm sure this video will bring you a ton of value.
Do you want to achieve wealth and passive income through property investing? PK Gupta, host of Oz Property Investment Mastery, will help you achieve passive income by buying top 5% growth and positive cash flow property and building a portfolio using data without you wasting months of time doing research, spending weekends at inspections, or dropping $10,000 to $20,000 on buyer's agents each time. So if you are confused and overwhelmed by the amount of contradictory information available online and don't know where to start, then this show is for you.
Maybe if you just start, if just kind of introducing yourself. I know you're so experienced, but you do a better introduction than me. But what I do want to say about you is, just thank you for servicing so many of my clients. All those who are watching will know you, will recognize you. So thank you for being so awesome part of our team.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on, PK. So I've been working with you personally probably for about nearly 8 months, which has been lovely. But in the industry myself, down here for nearly 11 years, up at Airlie Beach, Queensland for a couple of years initially, always in property management. So started as an assistant and just really worked my way through up into the senior role. And then a couple of years ago got into BDM and just that's what I love, just helping people, which really comes, I guess, from a background of just helping them achieve what they need to achieve, knowing what they need. And that's definitely more, I guess you can do the property management side of things and problem solve and do the day-to-day, but really the new business and helping people find investment properties is what I love. So that's where I've sort of ended up the last couple of years, and definitely it's been a ride. It's lovely down here at the moment. It's so busy. We've got a lot of new properties coming on. We've just rebranded to professional. So that's sort of what's gotten me here.
Awesome. And I think that's the best thing about really good property managers. They're good at what they do, but they really go above and beyond to help their clients. It's a really personable type of profession. You need to be likable, but also build rapport with clients. So I think that's something you do really well.
Yeah, and not really just landlords too. It's definitely across the board with tenants. I think you definitely can work with a tenant better if you can relate to them and you treat them like people. And that is where you need to really it's a people industry. And I think people forget that. And I think there's this real landlord-tenant sort of battle where people think that you can't have an amicable relationship as a landlord or a tenant or a property manager. It's this triangle that does not work. But I've never sort of encountered that to be a problem. I think if you treat people as people and you work with them and you do your best and you have the attitude of like, what can I do to help? We're here to problem solve, we're here to help. But at the end of the day, that's the attitude you have to survive as a property manager. Otherwise you will get burnt out.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, well put. And on a different video, I actually had one of our property managers from Perth explain how, I don't know if you watched that, Shelley, with Ashley, on how to buy interstate on a different city and do the inspections remotely, without sacrificing the due diligence. Shelley, if you can kind of explain to people who are, quivering in their boots on potentially having this property in a city they maybe not even ever visited, tell us what are the typical types of maintenance issues or the most common maintenance or issues that investors face? And what do you do about it? Like, practically speaking, how does it look like from, the tenant saying that this is an issue? And then what do you do about that? If you can just kind of unpack that.
Absolutely. So we're actually on a full online portal, and the brilliance with that is it's just like your internet banking. You can log on anytime. All of our properties have their own little setup. You've got all of your routine inspection reports there, your ingoing reports, photos. So a lot of our office policies, obviously, just providing as much information we can from start to finish. So when we select a tenant, going in and doing that ingoing inspection, it takes probably about 4 to 5 hours of our time, but we detail everything. So we know when a tenant moves in, what exactly the property looks like and what the condition is, and how things are sort of operating. When we do that, we do obviously do our checks if we can of appliances. It really depends on power connections and everything. But if the tenant moves in, they've got the opportunity to do all of that as well. So from a tenant reporting maintenance point of view, it comes through to us on the portal. Often if they are capable, we will get photos of that issue. We send it off to our landlords. So we obviously do our checks as well, just to make sure that it's not a tenant caused issue. If it's just a general maintenance, what it looks like, we can go back through our routine inspection reports, and really we have quite a detailed overview of each property. So it's pretty easy for us to determine, where that issue's come from and sort of the best point of call. With our portal system too, we have each landlord set up on how they want to be set up. So if one landlord might want us to organise all the maintenance for them, other landlords want us to obtain quotes. So we really get to the crux of how people want their property managed when we sign them up, and that obviously comes into play when a tenant reports something as well.
Right. And so, like, with those systems, let's say I have a property in Salisbury, which I don't, but I wish I did.
Why not?
Let's say I have one. And, there's a tenant in there, and the tenant calls you up, Shelley, and says, look, the toilet has stopped working today. I need this fixed.
On a Friday at 5 o'clock.
On a Friday at 5 o'clock, and it's an urgent thing. Let's not get into details. But like, as someone I live in Brisbane, so I'm in Brisbane, like, kind of hamstrung, can't really do anything. What would you do, and what does that process look like? Am I tearing my hair out, or
no? Absolutely not. So we'll always set a landlord up however they prefer in terms of communication. So if you're a landlord who wants a phone call every time an issue pops up, that's how you'll hear from us. If it goes in as a maintenance request, you also get an email and a text message. So we really do try and cover. Obviously, I have some landlords who would not like that phone call, so then we just follow the due process with those ones. But you'll get a text message to say your tenant's reported an issue that's gone into the system. Can you please log in and have a look at your earliest convenience? Obviously, if a tenant doesn't have a toilet, that would fall under urgent. So we pick up the phone and give you a call as well. Working out the logistics of obviously getting a quote and things done. We've got handymen who are pretty much 24 hours. So we've got 2 plumbers who work with our office plus a backup. So if that's something we need to get quoted, we can get that organised pretty quickly. But in terms of, as a landlord, you'll get the report through the exact issue, hopefully some photos from the tenant as well. With us, we do try and prep our tenants to do a bit of diagnostic on their own. So, if it's water spouting out from somewhere, like, have you turned the water off? If it's an electrical issue, have you unplugged your items to just see if it's your item or if it's an item of the property? So we train our tenants from the get-go when they move in as well on how to do those basic checks. And they have their handbook. So the moment they report that through, it's, have you done your checks? Have you checked that it's not just something that you can repair, a general item that they've missed? Have you turned on at the PowerPoint? Those minor things. So we really run through from the get-go, try and train the tenant to sort of identify issues that are maintenance. But when it comes to us, we field that and then obviously get it out to you. But you'll have a full report by email generally on a portal with as much detail as we can provide. And we await your instructions from there on how to action it.
Awesome. Guys, if you're getting value out of this, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, and give it a thumbs up. And I just want to say as well, to tack on to what you've said there, Shelley, like when you actually then end up spending the money on that plumber and getting that fixed, it's not like us investors have to, get out our credit card or go onto net banking and pay it. Everything gets automatically deducted from the rental income for that fortnight or for that month, and we just get a statement. And then at the end of the tax year, everything is categorized. So it's actually so easy, and I really want to get that message across to everyone who's still lacking confidence in buying into state. Managing a property, I don't know what your kind of experience has been, but I think per property, I probably spend less than half an hour a month. And that's even kind of pushing it, right? Normally, if someone like Shelley would say, oh, we need to spend $400 on this, I just reply, as long as we've got 2 or 3 quotes, approved. That's literally all I do.
Yeah. And we do have the backup. So when we get those sort of items in, we always are proactive on getting the quotes. Unless it requires investigation, our trades will generally tell us straight away like what we're looking at to sort of get it done. So our job is to do all of the legwork for our investors and to really give them as much information as we can so that they can make a very quick and informed decision.
Yeah. And here's a hairy question, right? And it's not me asking. This is just a microphone for everyone who asks me the same question. How can we trust you guys? Like, how can we trust a property manager to manage a property for us who we've never met? We don't know whether you care about our money, about our properties. In some respect, you're a complete stranger. How can we, build enough courage to say, we're going to, allow you to manage what's going to be our financial security in the future? How can we build that trust in property managers?
And I think there's always the bad few that tarnish the rest of us. No, I think it's really about finding and picking the right property manager for you. And I say this to every person I speak to on the phone, is you've got to find, I might not be the right fit for somebody, they might find another property manager who's a good fit for them. And I just say to them, you really need to find whoever you trust most, who provides you the information that you've asked for, and who has the attitude of, I can do as much as I can to help you. And I think especially interstate, you really just need somebody who is going to be proactive and getting information to you before you have even asked for it. So the moment a client signs an agency with us and their property's listed, I'd like to think that they don't contact me again. Every contact is from me initiating contact with them. They're paying me to do a job, and if they've had to pick up the phone to call me to ask something, I've let them down. So it's about finding the right person. Especially down here with licensing, so making sure you've got somebody licensed who's done their legislation and their course and is up to speed on everything, and just to try and find a local expert. I think, and I'm going to speak for and say that I actually have a good relationship with several property managers and BDMs in the area, and we all bounce off of each other. And you have to know, and Adelaide's a small town, so everybody knows everyone down here. And I've spoken to landlords who have signed with other agencies, and I'm really good friends with the person they've signed with, and I have to just say, well, you're in great hands because that person's an excellent property manager. So there is a lot of good property managers down here. It's about doing the legwork initially and finding someone who you're comfortable with, and who's going to give you, I guess, not only the best quality of work for the dollar amount, but also just look after your property as if it's their own.
Yeah, no, I think that last thing really kind of hits the nail on the head. I think one of the ways that I personally find property managers that I can trust is just assessing their level of knowledge. Like my clients, myself, we buy properties interstate. We use data to select the right suburbs. We use data to then pinpoint the right pockets of the suburb, data, the type of property. But it's good, like you said, Shelley, to have someone who knows that local environment and then just really be able to validate our insights with you. You'll know, look, okay, there's 2 housing commissions 3 streets down, but those are the types of housing commissions that are okay. It's not a problem. Whereas these other block of housing commissions you need to be staying clear of. It's that kind of on the ground knowledge. And like when someone like you, Shelley, proactively tells that to a potential client, I think that's really what builds trust, because you're just helping. You're not even getting paid for that.
That's it. And the amount of properties I get sent through, and I've got properties on that street already, or I've recently tenanted a property. It's Adelaide's a small sort of country town, so you need to find a local, and you need to find somebody who loves their job and who's also been doing it for enough time to know about how to select a tenant and how to work with different clientele, and to work out exactly how a landlord would like something managed.
Yeah, no, I always say that property managers, I don't care what anyone says, are the most important person in your team. That's my opinion.
That's great to hear too, because I think sometimes I think it's one of those things, people like, property managers, do we really need one of those? We can just do it ourselves.
Yeah. No, you can't. Even for properties that I've bought in Brisbane, I live in Brisbane. Like, even for those, I don't inspect them myself. I get the property manager to do everything. Like, they're just the experts. They're almost
the dream landlord.
yeah. They're my free buyer's agents that let the cat out of the hat, which is amazing. And on the point of tenants, right? So, like, let's say I've just bought a property in Salisbury, and I'm looking for a tenant. Just, can you break down what that process looks like? Me as an interstate investor, I might be really, I don't know, like, I've just spent all this money, I'm paying a mortgage, I don't want vacancy. What is Shelley doing, or what is a property manager doing to find me a tenant? How does that process work?
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, hopefully, if you've purchased the property and I've been in touch with you throughout the sales process, we would have already had that property marketed. So I do work with investors to get, as part of their sales contract, clauses to allow us to do 1 or 2 open homes prior to settlement to help you minimise that vacancy period. COVID has changed our systems a little bit. So this time a couple of years ago, we would have done an open home on the property, got our application forms in and processed them. When COVID landed, that sort of flipped that process, and we actually now obtain applications prior to even showing anyone through. That I've actually kept, because that's worked really well in just helping us know who we're taking through, and we're really taking through the top tier of tenants from the get-go. So none of these open homes anymore, which is a great time saver. We really just get the applications, we vet the tenant, check their employment history, check their rental history. We do all of those things for you. But at the end of the day, I'm just here to provide the information. So I will take through maybe my top 6 or 7 tenants so that we've got some options there. I try and field out a good, I call it a sample size of different applications to choose from, because I have some landlords that might prefer pets, no pets, all of those kind of things. So really having a good selection of tenants helps landlords make a confident choice. But at the end of the day, I'm filtering that information and referencing those people and giving them a background check. And at the end of the day, my landlords are choosing who they're comfortable with. So it's one of those things, I think, a lot of landlords don't think that they have a choice in the tenant selection. And, once you engage a property manager, we deal with it and we pick. And that is true for some landlords, but a lot of the time, I'm just here to provide that information to them, and they're making the choice at the end of the day. I'll help guide them. And it might be as simple as someone who I met who had, they might have just had a better vibe.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes it's just about likability.
Sometimes it's just meeting someone in face-to-face value, and their timeline checks out, and they just actually seem like a genuine tenant who's going to look after the property well. And that, for me, does have face value. You can have someone with the best applicant, and you can meet them, and something might just not click. And I just will let my landlord know, look, they had great on paper, but something about them in person just didn't float with me. So, but at the end of the day, it's really up to the landlord to choose who they're most comfortable with. We're just here to filter that data and to give them the best sort of, I guess, choice of applications, and to make sure that all of those background checks and due diligence checks are done. So
and there's so much that goes into it. I just want people to kind of connect with that point. Like, if you're thinking that you can manage a property yourself, or find tenants yourself, or manage tenants yourself, you probably can, but what property managers bring to the table is just so much more expertise. And if you're genuinely wanting to build a portfolio, then you're going to want to diversify at some point into different cities, different states. You need to embrace property managers. I still find that so many people don't even know what a property manager is. They still think it's like, oh, well, professionals must be a real estate agency and the real estate agents may do some managing on the side. Or they don't really understand it, right?
Yeah,
It's
it is
completely
definitely
separate.
one of those things. Yeah, people hear property manager and they're like, oh, but as an 18-year-old, when I went for my job as a property management assistant, I was like, what is that? Like, I went for it and I winged it, and then I learned like what it is. But a lot of people as investors don't know what we do either. But at the end of the day, we are here to make people's life easier. And it can be set up however somebody is comfortable. So we have systems and checks in place to really cater to a landlord who might want to attend a property 4 times a year with us for routine inspections, but also cater for a landlord who never wants to hear from us. So I think a lot of what people are scared of too is letting go and not having that control. But at the end of the day, we tailor everything as to how they want it to be tailored and how they want it set up and how they want it managed. We're here to guide and to give you advice and to give you as much expertise as we can. But at the end of the day, if somebody's not comfortable with us paying a water account on their behalf, or if they're not comfortable with authorising, a certain expenditure limit for maintenance, that really comes down to us having that system in place to say, well, no, you can still have control of that. You don't need to let go completely if you don't want to, but also if you do, we're here to help guide that as well.
Yeah, property, that's the thing. You don't kind of force any bureaucratic system on people. Like, for instance, I still pay for my own building and landlord insurance because I let the last one lapse and get a new policy, because I find that when you just renew it, ends up being a little bit more expensive.
They added a new one in, they always go up. Even if you don't make a claim.
So I was like, I'm going to do that myself, just to kind of, even if it's just $100 saved, every penny counts, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And maybe just last question from me. I think this is on a lot of people's minds. So clearly Adelaide, whether it's north, south, east, west, Adelaide's booming in terms of property market. Rental market is booming as well. One question that I always had, and I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you, is like, so many people in Adelaide are buying homes for the first time, right? First home buyers. That's one thing that's
if they can afford it. Yes.
Right, if they can afford it.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's driving property prices up, and upgraders as well, and more recently investors. What's driving the rental market to be so strong? Because if some of these renters are now stopping renting and buying, what's causing this buoyant rental market?
At the moment, I actually believe it's a shortage in rentals. So because what we have found is that the sales prices are going so high, a lot of our investors are also, our long-term investors have seen that and thought, oh, well, I've sat on this property for 20 years. Now's the perfect time to sell that. So we've also got tenants who have got properties that are getting sold. They're getting sold to first homeowners or people, obviously with the cash flow to be able to do that. The tenants in those properties aren't going to be homeowners, because in this sort of demographic, we have a real mix of young professionals who are close to the city. We've got a young mix of single mums who might be on parenting payments. So it's a really mixed demographic, and some of the people in this area are always going to be tenants. In saying that, they're happy to pay a premium to be a tenant, because they're not interested in saving a deposit, or, they just know that that's always what they're going to be. They've got no interest in purchasing a home. So we've always got that pool of tenants who are looking. But at the moment, we've just got a genuine shortage of rentals. And what that's caused is a price hike. And we've got sort of properties going so high from the sales perspective as well. So it is a little bit trickier to get to the market. I've worked with quite a few investors, and they've had to have a lot of patience to sort of get the right deal to get it across the line. But when you've got properties selling and we don't have any new residential areas getting built in this we're maxed out in terms of our suburb space. So we've only got what we've got. There's not a lot of new estates coming up. So if you want to be in the area, you have to be willing to sort of ride out that price rise. And I guess as well, it's been an area that has been stagnant for quite some time. So my mum's investment property not too far from here hasn't really had a price increase for the last 6 years. So it's one of those suburbs that we're due for a bit of a rise. We're so close to the city. There's lots of new infrastructure in Adelaide coming as well. We've got a new hospital. We've definitely got the population growth to sort of now sort of picking up. We don't have an oversupply, whereas I think in some of the, like I know in Melbourne, they've got all these new suburbs coming and new builds and new investors, and then when they pop up, they don't have tenants to put in the properties.
Yeah, exactly.
so I think Adelaide's definitely, we're in a really good pocket here. We're so close to the city. You can be a young professional and drive 25 minutes to get to your city job, or you can be a winemaker and drive 20 minutes out to the barossa. So we've got a really nice variety of, I guess, industries that sort of combine. We've got population growth, which is always good. And I just think once you find your rental here, we get a lot of good long-term tenants. So we don't get a lot of tenant movement either, which makes it hard if you're looking because a lot of people stay put, which is great.
Yeah, I've just found that Adelaide has been a really good sweet spot between kind of being at the bottom of the market, like you said, it's been stagnant for a while, and that kind of high yields. I think, like we were discussing before, hitting record, it's kind of getting to pockets are getting to a point where, you know, you'd be cautious getting in there now, because that kind of 6% yield is sub 5 now. It's already grown 30-40% in some areas, so you need to be a little bit cautious. But I think by and large, exactly, lots of infrastructure, lots of growth, everything, all the recipe for a good investment decision.
Yeah, and we're always going to have good quality tenants too, which is great, because there's just a pool of people who just don't want to own their own home or can't afford to. So, you know, we're in that real area, as if you are going to buy your own home, going up into the hills or into different areas, different suburbs is where people ultimately want to end long term. But this area around here is excellent for that, because you're always going to have good tenant quality. You're always going to have a nice selection of tenants. And I guess you're always going to have a really steady yield. I can't see us going backwards anytime soon. We've definitely had a nice growth, and I hope to at least stay stagnant on that. I don't think we're going to go backwards anytime soon, which is great.
I don't either. Yeah. Well, just mindful of time, Shelley. I know you have a pickup to do. So yeah, I just want to thank you for making time. But Shelley, before we wrap up, was there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, just to thank you. You've always been in touch and put forward, and your clients are always absolutely lovely to work with. So no, just to thank you for giving me the opportunity to sort of have a chat and always sending me such lovely new clients. No. It's always lovely to help people, and I know it is tough. Some of them have got a lot of patience finding the right property, but when we do, it's great. So
we're very particular about what we want to buy. So.
I know. No, that's okay. Now I've worked with quite a number of them. I can tell the property's popping up, and often they'll email me now and I'll say, I've already got a CMA ready for you. Wait that 10 people were going to ask me about this one.
No, thank you.
Being ahead of the curve.
And thank you as well for being part of my Facebook group. You know, you're always commenting, you're always sort of helping everyone.
Knowledge is power. If you pass that on to others and help others, it hopefully will come back and everyone shares, and it's a great community. So
beautiful. And guys, for everyone that's watching or listening, if you're not part of that community, I'll leave a link below somewhere to the podcast and also the Facebook group. Almost 10,000 people on there now. So hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on here on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. And I genuinely wish that you really take large strides and leaps in your property investing and look beyond your backyard. Because with people like Shelley, you know, literally you can buy anywhere in Australia, wherever the data takes us, and be completely fine sleeping at night, knowing that your asset is well taken care of. So I hope you enjoyed it. My name's PK and this is Shelley. Thanks so much.
Thanks, PK.